Welcome to 20 Questions with Spee. Essentially, we asked my team members and associates questions they wanted to know about me. I honestly don't know if they're business related or personal, but whatever they are, we're gonna do a quick little 20 questions from the team. We have my cousin Yoshi back as our social media content director, and he will be reading the questions today. So that's the other voice you hear in the back of the cam. Without further ado, let's get into it.
These first 5 questions are from Chad. What's one time you remember having your back against the wall and considering quitting reselling?
That's a great question. Okay, so probably when I got robbed senior year of high school. Really quick story. I have this as a YouTube video actually on the page, but essentially I had cops the 2019 Red 4s, paid way too much for them. I paid like $310, market was $260. So I put them on OfferUp, and this dude offered me $350 on them, and I was like, wow, that's over market. You know, that's a good sale. So I kind of got a little giddy at it, thinking I could get my money back and make a little profit so I could like reinvest it, because I didn't have a lot of money I was working with. Like that was the only pair of shoes I owned. Again, long story short, I went out to meet this dude and I got robbed at gunpoint, like pistol to the head type thing. And after that, I was like really shook. I didn't even tell my parents about it for like years. Like completely played it off, like act like it never happened, because that was the only way I was able to stomach what actually did happen. There was no calling the cops. There was no way I was gonna find out who this dude was. Like random profile on OfferUp, I just got robbed. So that was definitely a time where I had my back up against the wall and I didn't know what to do after that. I don't know if I'd say I had serious thoughts of quitting reselling. I was always going to continue hustling. I just knew I had to change a lot of what I was doing, and that really was probably the biggest reflection point in my career.
Question number 2. What got you through that time?
Probably just learning from that failure. I've never been the kind of person that takes failure as like a hard stop thing. I think a lot of people, when they fail, they're afraid of continuing due to the fear of failing again. And I think in any business, in any life, in any success story, you'll hear multiple failures are encountered until you're actually finally successful. So I think that was just a huge learning point for me. Like I was filled with anxiety and how to move after that. I didn't know, moving forward, if I should even offer local meetups or if I should try to sell on places like OfferUp, which I ended up really not doing any more OfferUps or Facebook marketplaces for a long time after that. And I've had OfferUp deleted since then, but I think what just kept me going is like knowing that, okay, don't do that. I got burned really badly doing this. So as long as I don't do that, which is just drive to the middle of the hood for a meetup, as long as I don't do that, I should be good. I just needed to learn how to move smarter. So it genuinely was a situation that made me a better person, a better business person. And moving forward, I was just able to grow.
What other reseller did you look up to when you were first getting started?
Probably DF Kicks. My friend Dalen Ferguson, who had a shop in Mayfield Heights, was actually murdered outside of his sneaker store Mother's Day of 2022, I believe it was, maybe 2023. Don't fact check me on that. It was a whole hazy memory, but I mean, DF Kicks, like when I first had met him, I followed him on Instagram and just saw this crazy motion he had. I mean, he was genuinely doing like 15 meetups a day. And I was like, how does this dude have this many clients every single day? Like I don't even know that many people that are looking to buy shoes. I had a couple hundred followers on Instagram, whatever. And here was this like big dog in the neighborhood moving serious pairs. And he was like hitting really good price points on it. He seemed to be tapped in and have a lot of plugs in terms of like what he was sourcing and just how quick he was able to get pairs after they released. And I think that was really inspiring to me at that time, just looking at him like, wow, I want to be like Dalen. I want to be like DF Kicks.
What about that person inspired you to start your own business?
So there was nobody that really inspired me into getting into reselling, but after I was reselling and had my business and was inspired by Dalen, I definitely knew that I needed to scale the operation. I think I might have been content at the time, freshman year of college, just making a couple sales. And obviously I always wanted more, right? Like you go to a sneaker drop and you want to come out with 10 pairs and not 4 pairs. But I'm not talking scaling in that sense. I'm talking discovering more clients. I wanted to discover more clients. I wanted to discover more connections, more plugs. And I just wanted to build my name and brand like Dalen had to ultimately just be a bigger sneaker entity like he was, because I saw he was successful. He was a young kid who didn't go to college, didn't have a job, like did this full time, and that's what I wanted. So I was just like taking notes on his Instagram. Okay, he posts like this. He posts this on his feed. What release did he have and how fast did he have it? What kind of pairs does he focus on? Is he selling a lot of Yeezys, a lot of retros? Understanding that we have different buyer bases, but just really kind of taking notes from how he moved to know that as long as I was copy and pasting some of that and it translated in my business, that was the path to success.
Last question from Chad. If you could go back and change one thing while you were growing the business, what would it?
The one thing I would definitely change if I could go back was not giving my full trust to anyone that wanted to help me. I had a very close friend of mine, was there from like day one. Like when I bought those Bread 4s, he was actually an employee in that store. I thought I could trust this guy. You know, he seemed like a genuine character. I had met his family, met his friends, met his, cousins and uncles and stuff. You feel like when you get to know a person like that and you're intertwined in their web of people that you would never think that they're gonna screw you over. I would have pairs, and if he has a client, okay, boom, give me this on him and you can go sell them to your dude. And this kind of compiled for a couple years to the point where I had this man running around with my credit card, 2 stores looping while I was at my house running Whatnot streams. So like he was the guy out in the field, I was paying him per pair he brought me, trying to put some money in his pocket and see him grow as well. And then he ultimately burned me by buying $20,000 worth of stuff on my credit card that was not sneaker related whatsoever. I think if I could change one thing, it would be allowing my full trust to somebody who I didn't understand their intentions.
These next 5 questions are for Matt. Question number 1. What made you want to pursue and grow this business in this industry?
So I know my story's out online somewhere, but long story short, I didn't have cool shoes when I was in grade school. Everybody was rocking the KDs, the LeBrons, and maybe even some Jordans. Not as much so Jordans though. When I was in 8th grade back in like 2012, 2013, everybody wanted the KD 5s, the KD 6s, the LeBron 9s, LeBron 10s, and even the Kobe 8s. I was a very fortunate child growing up, always having a roof over my head and a meal to eat, and I was sent to a nice school and always taken care of in every one of those aspects. But when it came to luxury purchases, my parents were not spending $200 on a LeBron for me to wear to school / play in CYO basketball. So it was a combination of that and then going to school, like rocking Fila's and kind of just getting picked on, like I was a sheltered individual, I want to say. I was a kind of kid that wanted to be friends with everybody and just be nice. Some of these kids, they had more, I don't want to say life experiences, but they were just rough around the edges, like they were able to watch rated R movies before a time I was, and it was just kind of one of those separations between me and these other kids where I was getting picked on a little bit and I didn't know how to handle that. I wasn't like, somebody would make a remark to me and I wouldn't snap back at them. Like I would just kind of take that and be like, oh, why is he being mean to me, So I think that really led, the deprivation of not having cool shoes and kind of being picked on was the motivation to getting in this industry, because ultimately I bought my first pair of Jordans, Jordan 11 Legend Blues. I wore them to school and I felt like a cool kid. Like, everybody's like, oh, he's got the J's on. I was like, yeah, you know what it is, right? Like just kind of that fake until I make it. And then when I was done wearing them, like a month, 2 months later, I cleaned them up, posted them on eBay and like made $40. And I was like, wow, I can do that. So I fell in love with the game because I knew that I could keep buying cool shoes and having all these different flavors. Like I wanted to be the kid in school that had a different pair of shoes every month, And granted, I went to a private school. You can't wear cool shoes every day, but like every dress down day, I was in a new pair of shoes because I was just buying and flipping. So that's ultimately what got me inspired to start in this business, because I saw the upside of it, and I've always been an entrepreneurial individual that just wanted to make money, and I guess that's it, really, just wanted to make money. So when I realized I could do that with the shoes and also like fill that gap of not having cool shoes in my life, it was a win-win, and I kind of ran with it.
People are always saying how much you've accomplished at such a young age. What keeps the motivation to keep you going?
Essentially, for me, as much as people want to come in and see the store and say how cool it is and oh my gosh, you've accomplished this, I really appreciate all of the kind words and that really touches my heart, but that's never gotten to my head. Like I'm not an egotistical kind of person and I wasn't just trying to get to this point, right? Like I have a 5-year plan of the business, and this was just one of those steps to getting to that 5-year plan. And even when that 5-year plan's up, I'm gonna have another 5-year plan, right? Like I think I'm always chasing the next step and the next opportunity and the next goal. And understanding now that we have a full team of people that rely on weekly paychecks from me, like that is a combination of the inspiration that keeps me grinding so hard, but just also like the dire want for growth. We'll go into a bulk buy and I'll buy 1,000 units. Like I wanna be able to buy 20,000 units if need be. Like I just wanna build my capital and build our inventory selection and continue to grow our brand and our brand name and just the awareness for 440 Kicks and our downtown location and our streams. Like I'm filled with a fire of desire, and there's nothing that's gonna stop that. Whether we lose everything tomorrow, whatever it may be, whatever happens, I'm going to make it because I'm inspired and I have that desire to do so.
Do you have a vision of where you want the business to be going in 5 years?
Very on par question. I used to stress myself out a lot a couple months ago, kind of feeling like I wasn't growing, like kind of that we're just floating in this middle phase. And I watched a video by Alex Hormozy, who is like the internet don and has a lot of great resources online for business owners. And something that he said that sat with me is the point of being in business is not to win. There's no such thing as winning in business. Winning in business is staying in business. So the fact that we've been in a business for 5 years, you know, with payrolled employees for 3, and we continue to see growth and we continue to increase our brand awareness, I really had to shift perspectives for a minute to calm down and be like, okay, Hayden, you know what? Like we're not doing too bad, right? Like, yeah, it'd be great to have double the January in 2025 that we did in 2024. But with added expenses and different endeavors that we're kind of delving into and investing in things like content and newer equipment in the store ultimately, it's not always going to be this straight line of double ups if you look at it like a bar graph, right? So I think in the next 5 years, first of all, if we're still in business and anywhere more than the level where we are at this moment in time, I'm happy. But ultimately in the next 5 years, I could see maybe a couple other locations being in place. I think a lot of store owners are like, okay, I have 1 store location, I'm making money, I'm in the green, let me open 7 more. Like, yeah, obviously one way to scale, but I don't know if that's in the 440 Kicks future. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 other locations in the Cleveland area, maybe we do 1 in a different city. I'm not really super passionate and have the desire to do that, right? I just kind of wanted a flagship location where we can buy shoes, where we can have people come in and see the brand and kind of interact and such. But I really like to continue to grow the streams. In 5 years, I'd love for our streams to be knocking out the park, going live any day of the week and having hundreds of people in there. I want to have brand sponsorships. I want to be collaborating with other Cleveland brands, with other Cleveland collectives and creators, and ultimately like big brands. You know, I want Bang Energy or Chipotle to be a sponsor or something. And I want to be able to look back in 5 years and see the content that we've continued to put out. And I want to know I've inspired other people to start in this business. I want to know that I've inspired people to continue to be sneakerheads and like continue to grow and spread that culture. And I ultimately would love to be able to know that this business has put me in a position to where I can take care of not only my team, but also a future family and my family now.
What's your favorite part about being in the sneaker and streetwear business?
I think my favorite 2 things of being in this business is 1, having access to the coolest stuff whenever it comes out. Like if we buy a Supreme load of tees from one of my plugs, I'm definitely looking to see if any of those are entering my closet, you know? So kind of being at the forefront of being able to pick and choose what goes in my closet and having like super cool and rare stuff is definitely my favorite pro. But I think aside from that too, just like being a leader of a team. I love putting pieces together and where they need to go, you know, sending a list out to the pack team on what needs to get packed today, and then sending a list to the dudes in the store like, hey, this stuff needs to get done in the store, and then having a discussion with Yoshi about, okay, what are we doing on the content side today? You know, and then obviously that stuff can be really stressful, but at the end of the day, I love knowing that like my decisions and actions are somewhat leading the team in the right direction, right? Like it's kind of just like leading your team of soldiers on the battlefield. So I don't know, that's probably my favorite part.
What's the craziest memory you can think of that's happened to you in this business?
I would probably say going to SneakerCon Riyadh in Saudi Arabia as of 2 weeks ago. I mean, that was a surreal experience. I used to go to SneakerCons right after COVID. I had my first table for SneakerCon in 2019 Cleveland. Then the COVID thing starts hitting and the restrictions were like 2-3 months before the show was about to happen. And that was like the most heart-shattering thing ever. Like I wanted to go to SneakerCon so badly. I had never been to one. I had never been to a sneaker show, and I was like dying to see what that was like and to be in that atmosphere with just all of these sneakerheads. So then I opted to keep my tickets and not a refund. Months and months go by, they had to push the show again, the COVID restrictions are still happening, whatever. Well, then their first event that they did after COVID restrictions was in Dallas in 2021. And that was like the craziest show ever, like just being shoulder to shoulder people are slinging pairs for the high, like everybody's carrying a shoe of some sort around. I'm in there, about like 80, 90 pairs, whatever fit in my car. So from going to that, to then vending at a couple shows and then building a relationship with the team at SneakerCon, to then be personally invited to go out to Riyadh, like that was like one of the coolest things ever. Like that was a moment of recognition for me and the brand, like to be personally invited to go out to their first inaugural event in the Middle East, like that was insane. And that whole experience, being with some of the top dogs in the game for an entire week, from the hotel to the bus to the actual show to the flight home, like that was an amazingly humble experience. And I got emotional like day one there. 2J's Kicks was talking about, you know, congratulations for being selected for this, and this is how you should act and move, you know, make sure you're respectful, yada, yada, just giving us the rundown. And I'm just standing in that circle kind of having flashbacks to wanting to go to Cleveland SneakerCon and then going to Dallas and all the shows that I've gone to between, which is 50 plus. Like that was an amazing full circle experience to be like, oh, I made myself here. Like I put myself in this position to be here. Yes, I got invited, but like I ultimately worked to get here. So that I would say that's probably one of the craziest.
These next 5 questions are from myself. How do you find the balance with trusting and not trusting people? For example, like friends, other buyers and sellers, and employees after all the experiences that you've gone through?
So I think it's about learning how to read people. Although like there are some people that I feel like I've read that just like they're complete wildfires and just, you never know. You know, you kind of got to prove yourself. Like when I bring an employee on the team, they're not alone at the warehouse by themselves until I've kind of seen them work and their work ethic. Now, granted, I'm very blessed to have the team that we have now because they're very like close friends and acquaintances that I've known for 5+ years, so they're not like random folks we brought on necessarily, but it's just about seeing how somebody works, I think, at this point. Like if they're dedicating themselves to this brand and they're putting the hours in and they're clearly invested in the direction you're trying to take the brand and they understand what I'm trying to accomplish here, you know, by being on time and just putting the work in and not complaining and asking questions when they don't understand how to do something, I think that speaks volumes to me as to why they're here, right? Like they're not here just for a paycheck. They're here because they want to do the job right, and they also have a passion for being in the space.
People from all industries and careers have had an I made it moment. Have you had that yet?
I thought opening the store was gonna be my I made it moment, and it was a completely new set of downs. Like we had maybe 5 to 10 people outside waiting to come in, and that was solely because I was offering free stuff. In my mind, I thought with the following that we have and the amount of items we've sold, especially the Cleveland locals, that my store opening was going to be that I made it moment. You know, the long hours, setting everything up in here and just planning things to a T. Okay, sneaker stores do this, but I want to do this and make it better. Like there was just so much planning and forethought that went into setting up and establishing the store. And it was kind of a letdown. Like the first week, it was really slow. The first month, it was really slow, other than our friends and family event, which like ultimately kept us floating that month. I thought that was going to be my I made it moment, and it's not. I'm thinking maybe the 1-year anniversary, but that's definitely top 5. Like just even being able to say that we accomplished that and opening a store and having the product selection we do and having some of the faces and names that have come in the store, looking back in retrospect, that's an I made it moment. Again, to touch on another topic we just talked about, the SneakerCon Riyadh, that was another I made it moment. I think getting verified on Whatnot like a 1.5 years ago was another like top 5 I made it moment. I've never been verified on anything before until Whatnot got me a verified page after I had sold 50, 60,000 items and had 60K followers or whatever. That was like one of the greatest days of my life. I don't know, maybe that sounds weird to people at home, like, oh, it's just a check mark. Like, but I worked for that. Like I busted my rear and put so many countless hours, sweat, tears, and almost years before that happened. That was definitely a top 3 I made it moment.
You always say sneakers is your life and hobby, and you're very lucky to have that, to be able to do it for work. What advice can you give to others still looking for their calling or purpose?
This is a great question. Okay, ask yourself at this very moment, whoever's watching this, are you happy? Like close your eyes for a second and ask yourself, are you happy? Now, if there's any part of you that is contemplating the answer to that question, you're not happy. And I think it's about doing what makes you happy and what you're passionate about. Listen, I didn't have all the answers to this space and to how I was gonna get here when I started, but I knew I had the passion and I was happy with working in this industry, in this space, and it ultimately led me to the team that I have, to the storefront, to the streams, to every operation and everything we have going for us. This all happened day by day, 1% better at a time, 1 day at a time, okay? So I think people at home, or whoever's watching this, you guys need to focus on what you're passionate about. Maybe that's crafting, maybe that's cooking, maybe that's gaming, maybe that's wanting to stream, maybe that's working out, maybe that's going to school, maybe that's being a doctor, being an engineer, maybe that's selling stuff at garage sales, maybe that's retail arbitrage on Amazon, maybe that's pursuing a professional sport. Whatever it is, you've got to find what you're most passionate about. Okay, ask yourself the question, what gets you out of bed in the morning? And when you combine those things and you set up a plan with many goals, maybe make a goal list for the month and then a goal list for the year, and then actually like pursue those goals, because you understand when you accomplish those goals, you're one step closer to what you actually want to be in life. I think if people actually dedicate themselves to that and you have this burning fire of desire inside of you to be a pro athlete, to be a store owner, to be whatever, you are going to live the happiest and most fulfilled life you could ever imagine because you're following your heart. And I think that that's important for people to understand. Like, don't settle. You are the only person holding yourself back from your full potential. And if you let others outside you know, whether that's your family. And I know it's tough. If you don't have a supportive family, what you're doing, I know this is extremely hard advice to take because you don't have a support system. I've been blessed to have my family and friends always support me and like understand what I want to do and really push me to get there. I think it is harder if you don't have that support system, but I think you really just need to say, fuck everything else other than what I'm trying to do. And when you sit down and bunker down and focus and lock in, the world is yours, bro. And it's not gonna happen in a month. It might not happen in 6 months, might happen in 2 years. But you understand that you are unstoppable by achieving these goals and by getting 1% better every day. I promise you, if you stick to that recipe for a year and then you watch this video back or have another conversation with yourself a year later, you're gonna be like, damn, like I actually feel a lot better. I started going to the gym, I started eating healthier, I switched careers or I switched majors because I wasn't happy and I feel in a better space. Like follow your heart. That's what I got for that.
You've mentioned dropping out of college before. Do you remember the exact moment when you decided to finally pull the trigger and drop out? Or is it kind of just lost in translation with, hey, I just did that?
That's a great question. So I remember it was like middle of summer, right after sophomore year. We had just had like online classes for the entire sophomore year. And that was like a joke to me. It was cool, like, oh, we don't have to go into class, but it was just like literally going onto a Zoom and then not even having to show face and just laying in bed for classes. Like, yeah, I was still doing well in my classes and I turned my assignments in on time or whatever. But it was just like feeling that, again, what we just talked about a minute ago, I felt like a cat in water. I was not passionate about going to school. I felt like I was only doing it to please my parents and to please the education system that had been shown in front of me. Like I went to a college prep high school. So you're going to high school to get into college. Like you're literally practicing to get into college. And once you get into college, it's like, okay, find a degree that you love. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna do accounting because I like business and I want to be in the business realm, and I know you can do a lot with accounting, but I wasn't passionate about doing accounting. I liked what I was learning to be able to implement it in my own business, but I ultimately knew like getting a degree was just not in my path. So after sophomore year, I was kind of going to some shows and I was making decent money, I guess. I mean, I was making like 500, 750 profit a week. And you know, that's $2,000 a month. So my rent was like 400. My other bills were like 1,000. So I was making like maybe 1,000 like net profit a month, which I was putting back into inventory. And I was like, you know what? I can kind of live off this for now. And I put full faith in myself. Like if I just jump off this ship and I'm able to go to every show in the country and meet all these store owners, like I'm gonna make it happen. And I didn't know how exactly that was gonna come together, but I had a serious conversation with my parents. I was like, yo, mom and dad, and this was like June, right after sophomore year, I was like, yo, I'm really thinking about dropping out of college. I don't think this is for me. I honestly think this is a waste of money, me paying for a degree that I don't ultimately see myself using. I was working in a local shoe store at the time, the only job I've ever had. And I was like meeting people, learning how the store works, and also selling some pairs in the store. I just felt this fire, like this is what my destiny is. Like this is what my life is supposed to be. So my parents supported that decision. They're like, hey, if that's what you want to do, like we fully support you. We trust you. We understand how much of a hard worker you are, and we have faith in you getting where you want to get. And just hearing those words from them, that was like, okay. Another quick thing that I'm going to tie into, I remember having a lesson with one of my professors where they talked about the story, and it was the Spanish conquistador or whatever that was coming to a South American like country, and he only had 3 ships of men. They had like 300 soldiers, okay? And they're going to this country that has like 10,000 soldiers. So all of the guys on the ship are like super worried about like, okay, how are we gonna take this place over if we only have 300 men and they have 10,000? The Spanish captain burned the ships down. They came in 3 boats. They burned every ship down. And he told his men, listen, we're either gonna make this happen and we're going to take over this town, or we're not going home. Like we're gonna die. And that has lived in my mind, like burn your ships, burn your bridges, and give yourself no other alternative and you will be successful. Okay, and then long story short, they ended up taking over the whole village with like 100, 200 men to spare. Like it was like, it's an amazing story. Real story, you can Google it. But I was just like, I have to burn my bridges. If I'm ever gonna be successful, this is the time to jump off. Yes, I did half of college and I put a lot of money into it, but like having that support from my parents, it was just like jump ship. So I remember like calling up the school that middle of June and saying, hey, I'd like to request a release form from being a student here. And by that July, it was done. I was out of school.
What do you do to de-stress from being a business owner or just from life in general?
This is something I definitely need to work on. Okay, I literally work a lot. I'd say 3 things that I do mainly to de-stress. 1, I go to the gym as much as I can. Sometimes on busy days like this, it's hard to justify going, or busy weeks like this, but going to the gym is definitely an outlet for stress. and to kind of clear my mental out. I love sitting in the sauna. Number 2 is seeing my family. I'll see my dad for dinner and my brother for dinner at least once a week, if not once every other week. I think that keeps me grounded and just, you know, they're a huge support system to me. They're a huge motivator as to why I wake up every morning and do what I do. So just be able to see them kind of like roots me and grounds me for a little bit. And then number 3, which might not be a popular answer, especially if you're an old head, but I smoke some Mary Jane, and that Mary Jane calms your boy down. Okay. I just like chilling out. I live with Gavin, my COO and associate, and just being able to shoot the shit with him, you know, talk about how the week went in business, just talk about whatever random stuff, and just being able to like smoke and relax. Like, it really takes my mind off stuff and allows me to just decompress. So I'd say those 3 things are like the only extracurriculars I have.
The last 5 questions are from Gavin. 5 years back in the dorms, did you ever think that 5 years later it would turn into the operation that it has?
Absolutely not. I had no idea this was coming. I knew that it could come, but I didn't understand the million things that were gonna happen between then and now. Like, back in the dorms, I was just this super amped up kid who was making new friends. Like, college was an amazing experience. Being able to live with my buddies and moving out of the house. Freshman year enlightenment is a real thing. And I think, like, aside from the fact that I felt like I wasted money by going to college, like, that's where I met my lifelong friends. Everybody that's like around me, aside from like 2 or 3 people maybe, went to my college. And I think that was an amazing way to network and meet new people in a non-judgmental space. You know, everybody's out of high school and they're a lot more mature, and everybody's understanding that, okay, we're on this campus to achieve the same piece of paper. Like, I don't know, there was a sense of community that I felt, and the amount of people that I met, it was just like enlightening. So I really didn't know how I was gonna get to here. Again, I'd always like dreamed about having a store, but there were a million things that needed to happen and go down before I got here. So there was no chance I knew this was coming.
What are some of the top personal purchases that you have ever made?
Okay, so I didn't know it at the time, but my Mummy SB Dunk Lows are my favorite shoes of all time. And I had them like a week or 2 after they dropped, and I just started wearing them because I thought they were cool. Like, I love those things. That canvas material, the glow-in-the-dark bottoms, the accents, how cozy it is with the puffer tongue, aside from the Off-White Out of Office, which is another great purchase. But those Mummies, man, I've worn those 2 years straight, to the warehouse, on the road, in the store, like, you name it, I've worn them there, and they still look like really clean. I'd probably say, as of recent, the Supreme posters we have in the store, just because they're friends and family and nobody else really has them. My 440 chain, like, hands down, top 5 purchase. That was like a huge moment for me. From always, like, you know, listening to rappers, you know, like 2016 Lil Uzi and XXXTentacion and 21 Savage, like, all those guys, like, you want to be like the rappers, you know, like, you want to try walk out and you want to like have some diamond chains and a cool car. Like, I really wanted a chain, and just to be able to purchase that, like, that was an amazing day. That's definitely top purchase, just because it's like a marketing thing too. Like, everybody that knows me and my face also can put together that chain because I wear it every day. I'm not wearing it right now, actually, surprisingly. But and the last purchase I'd probably say was my car, my Mazda. I paid all cash for it. I used to ride around in an 05 Ford Escape for my grandparents, like, no features. I paid all cash for my car, 16 grand, which was like a ton of money. Like, that was like more than half of my net worth at the time. I threw on Impossible. I listened to the whole Rodeo album on the way home. And when I was listening to the song Impossible by Travis Scott, I just like teared up. Like, I was in this semi-new car, 40K miles on it, leather seats, like LED display. I was listening on like Bluetooth, like actual Bluetooth. It was like one of the greatest feelings I've ever felt. So that's definitely up there too.
If you can have a store in any other city, where would it be?
If I could have a store in a city that's not already overpopulated with stores and it's like a brand new market, I'd love to be in Miami. I know that's like a super basic answer. And I'm not even a Miami guy. I've been there 6-8 times. Like, I'm so cool on like going there, unless it's like to buy something or like to go to the art district at Wynwood. But Miami would be a sweet place. I mean, people have money down there. It's super trendy. Like, it's always warm out. So, you know, people are always buying nice shoes. You know, you come up to a city like Cleveland, people aren't wearing their nice shoes for 5 months of the year. It's super cold and snowy and rainy and just bad weather. So if I could have picked a city like to be the first resale store in, I would have loved to be in Miami. If not, LA. Love LA. It's a great city. A lot of people don't like the traffic as much, but that's whatever. I take the traffic to live out there. But I'd probably say LA and Miami.
What's the #1 hardship that you've been through in this business along this journey? And I know you've mentioned some already.
one of the hardest things to accomplish and do was really building a team. I was always the kind of person that wanted to do everything myself. Like, I didn't think I could afford paying somebody to help me do stuff, or I wasn't making like crazy money by any means. But I think it was just like realizing, okay, how do I budget for a team? What is the most crucial role that I need to hire for right now that would help expand our business? And then, okay, once I fill that spot out, okay, now what's next? How can I spend money for somebody's time to make my life easier, right? And then again, going back to the who can you trust, you know, just finding trustworthy people that's affordable for me and my business, and then, you know, just kind of learning the ins and outs of that.
Last question from Gavin. If you could collab with any person or company on any sort of item, who or what would it be, and then what would the item be?
It's phenomenal. Okay, but number one, nicotine pouch company. Okay, I'm your boy. I'll work like a dog for you. I'll promote the shit out of your brand every single day. So I used to vape for 7 years, okay? And the only thing that was able to get me off the vaping was the nicotine pouches. Like, there was this one day I came back from the warehouse and I chucked my Juul, like burning the bridges like we talked about. I literally burned I was like, I'm just gonna throw my device out, force myself to try them and make that work. Like, I was so sick and tired of chiefing a vape all day, like, and I knew I needed to make a change in my life for the better. So I'm a big pillow guy, okay? I use like 7, 8, 9 a day. And we're not talking 3s or 6s, I'm talking like 9s to 15 mgs. So I'd love to work with a pillow brand like 440 Kicks. It's like a black tin with like bright blue and pink Miami 305 colors, you know, the 440 Kicks, whatever. And it's like a cotton candy or a blue raz, 9 mg, bro. Like, that would be insane. Aside from that, really quick, number 2, Bang Energy. I'd love to have like a 440 Kicks Bang or something. I love energy drinks. I'm always jacked up on caffeine. And Bang or Ghost, whatever, I'd work with the 2 of them. And then lastly, I don't know how I'd collab with them, but Chipotle is like my favorite fast casual restaurant. It's just like great macros, great food, and it's delicious. So if I could collaborate with Chipotle anyways, which I don't know how us as a shoe entity would, but that'd probably be it. All right, well, that's 20 questions with Spee from the team. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about me and found this entertaining, maybe a little inspiration talking about how you can get into business and stay adamant with that. But again, I just want to remind you guys, if you woke up this morning, you are winning and blessed. Again, don't hold yourself back from your full potential. Whatever your heart is beating for, like, go chase that regardless of what anybody has to say about it. Anyways, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and taking the time to listen. Please hit the subscribe and like button. If you can drop a comment on maybe something you liked, something you didn't like, I'd love to have a discussion about it below. And stay tuned for our more weekly content. We're going to be posting 2 times a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, for more sneaker-related content. And again, follow us on Instagram, 440.kicks, and our whatnot at 440kicks if you guys want to catch our latest and most rare gear, all starting at $1. Till next time, it's been your boy Spee, and we'll catch you soon.